What happens after a hero saves the world but returns to nothing? Min-Soo Kim had just defeated the Demon Lord and finally returned home after years away. But he finds his family gone, his friends vanished, his entire life erased, leaving him with nothing. This is a story of a once revered hero's descent into despair as he's determined to make the world feel his pain. Or at least that's what you might think, but this story isn't what it seems. If you're like most people, you probably got hooked by those first few panels. Min-Soo Kim drowning in despair, slowly losing his sanity as he goes on a rampage. It's like his own version of this world shall know pain. Almighty push. Why should he be the only one suffering? If he has to carry all this sorrow, then the world might as well feel it too. But then the story flips. Suddenly we're following someone completely different, Jung-Soo Park. His family gets caught and falls victim to Min-Soo's rampage, and just when you think it's over, he ends up getting Isekai too, thrown into another world with nothing but his trauma. At this point you're thinking, oh great, another revenge manhwa with no real plot, and to be honest, it does start that way. When Jung-Soo returns, all he can think about is revenge, and he comes back to a world where heroes have returned, but society has completely rejected them. And that's exactly why Hero Has Returned is so polarizing. You think you're getting something fresh, something different, but then it starts to feel like just another edgy revenge manhwa. Except it's not. There are real plot twists, characters with their own motivations, and the more you read, the more those backstories hit. Not just for shock value, but to actually deepen the story. It's not just about revenge anymore, and here's why I think it's worth giving a chance. I think what really hooked me was how it explored what happens when messed up people are thrown into another world and called heroes. What would teenagers from all kinds of backgrounds actually do if they suddenly got superpowers? Instead of getting attached to any single hero or main character, I found myself drawn to the world itself. How it unraveled as all these heroes ran amok. How would people deal with them? What pushed them to go on a rampage in the first place? I already knew the series was divisive, so I went in with an open mind. And instead of focusing on whether I liked the characters, I focused on the bigger picture. Honestly, just had fun reading this dark and depressing story. You've got all sorts of heroes with wildly different themes: magical girl, mech pilot, vampire slayer. A lot of people do not enjoy reading about backstories, and I get that, but I think it adds to the whole theme of heroes returning, which also allowed for a wide variety of fight scenes. Why did some heroes become a villain, and why did some remain a hero? What happened in their respective journey to enable their personalities further when they returned? And while I wasn't focused on one character at first, there was one that completely flipped that for me: the hero of return, which has quite literally the most OP power of all the heroes in the story. I'm going to spoil just one moment. The panel that completely flipped the switch for me, so if you want to avoid spoilers, skip ahead. I killed your parents. I had to know why he said that. What did the hero of return mean by that? And at that moment, I knew I was reading something much more than just a revenge story. What did I just step myself into? So hopefully I've sold you on giving this series a real chance. Either way, I think you'll at least have fun with it, especially if you enjoy manhwa with a darker, grittier vibe than your typical action story. However, there are valid criticisms that detract from the story. The biggest one, it might just be too dark or gritty for the sake of being edgy. Now, there's a reason for that in the story. It's not just shock value, but if you randomly pick this up without any context, your first reaction might be, damn, everything and everyone sucks, there's no hope, why even bother fighting? And yeah, I can definitely feel that way, especially with how the first arc begins, but the plot twist later on gives everything context and helps you understand why everyone is the way they are, which honestly makes it more worth reading in the long run. Now, the elephant in the room. With all these heroes, there's a lot of backstories. Some are necessary, some show just a damn good fight, and some just feel out of place and slow the story down. This is very apparent in Season 2. Season 1 ends on a cliffhanger right before the big showdown. Season 2 starts off strong, calling back to what hooked you into the story in the first place, replaying the events that led Min-Soo Kim to go in the path of destruction. But then all of a sudden the story starts jumping into fight scenes and backstories for every other hero. This is where people understandably fall off. I like the idea of it. It expands the stories and adds in a variety of hero fights, but the timing is rough. You'll go chapter after chapter wondering when the main story will pick back up again. On one hand, the author could have introduced these fights before revealing each hero's fate. On the other, maybe delaying the twist would have lost even more readers. Honestly, I don't think there's a right answer. Like I mentioned before, you should just enjoy the ride. There are many parts of the story where the main character isn't even the focus and is actually put to the sideline for other heroes to shine. One fight and backstory that I will stand behind: Do Hoon Lim, the time warrior, truly peak. The only other thing that I'll ever remember about this manhwa, it explains why you see an old man amongst all these heroes that were high schoolers, his return back to his family, and his fight with Min-Soo Kim himself. His story actually tugged on my heartstrings and delivered one of the greatest manhwa panels ever. So yeah, go into season 1 with an open mind, and if you ever feel bored or lost, feel free to skip around until the story picks back up. But don't you dare skip the Time Warrior story. I want to see in the comments if you agree with me. Listen, this manhwa is far from perfect. It could have been peak, but honestly, it still does a great job exploring its concept, and that alone made it feel fresh to me, especially after reading so many isekai stories with the same recycled themes. I'm also aware this is not for everyone. If you're just looking for a fun read where the MC Aura farms their way through everything, this ain't it. If you want to follow one main clear character as they grow stronger, this also still isn't it. Is this even a good revenge story? Not really. The focus shifts way more than that. But if you made it this far in the video and I piqued your interest even just a little, then honestly, you've got nothing to lose. You've probably already burned through all the TikTok recommendations you saved anyway. And hey, it's not like Latina Saga where you have to suffer through almost like 100 chapters before it gets good. This one's more like 60. So if you're still curious, give it a shot. Worst case, you drop it. Best case, you find something that actually sticks with you. Let me know in the comments if you've read this before or if you're going to give it a shot. I want to know what your favorite hero fight was. Thanks for watching.